Welcome back to the Check Swing Podcast, y'all, with yours truly, and of course, the star of the show, my man, Coach Santa over there, rocking the Philadelphia Stars hat, Negro League, representing. Nice picture behind you too. That lion back there look like he's coming out of the darkness.
That's why I have him back there.
I bet it is.
His name is Hector.
So did we? Yeah, last week we talked about the Sixers being knocked out of the playoffs and all what's going on with that. We talked about a few things this week. Well, actually, let me back it up. Sorry, let me back it up. Miguel, how you been?
Good. The weather is it's 45 degrees in the morning, and by the time I get back on the bus on the way home, it's 85 degrees.
Yeah, it's definitely it's that weird time of year. Actually, we should be out of that weird time of year right now. Like it's about to be June in less than 48 hours. So
Yeah, it's definitely been a cool spring, if you will, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, that it has. That it definitely has. I'm trying to think. Today, I stepped out and I was like, yeah, I didn't have a jacket or anything on with me when I stepped out the house. I had a hoodie jacket in my car, but I stepped out and I was like, oh, it's a little chilly.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't put my windows down at first because it was a little chilly, and then when I was coming home, the car was burning up. But it was almost a little too cold to put the windows down for a long time too. I couldn't put them all the way down. I had to crack them to let the heat out of the car, but I could have rode around. Anyway, I say all that to say my building was very cold today. I had to put on a jacket in the building.
I will say, in the category of weird crap from Baltimore, so I get on at the first stop on the way home because it's the last stop is the medical center. So I get on the bus or whatever, no problem. And then there's like a couple of youth that come on, and one lady looks in the seat, and she lets out like, "What the?" I look down, and I'll send you the picture later. But there's actually 2 packs of ground turkey. There's a pack of ground turkey and a steak. And you know how like when you leave something out too long, it starts to actually turn from like that blood to like slightly brown. It looked like it looked like it was partially done within the wrapper.
It was just sitting out on the bus.
Yeah, it was sitting in its own seat. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Ugh.
Yeah, it was because we were wondering. It's like, wow, it smells kind of funky back here. Let me see if I can show our fans.
Oh yeah, definitely had its own seat.
Definitely had its own seat, and then yeah. So it took a nice trip, about 25 minutes from the Inner Harbor to Northeast Baltimore.
How far is that?
20, 25 minutes. Well, it depends on the driver. They usually do 50 and 30s. Yeah, so we're good.
50 and 30. Yeah, we had a bus driver like that this year. Fortunately for me, I was never on the bus when we had her as a bus driver, but I was told she was running all the red lights, running all the stop signs, going like 70 or 60 in the 30, and running over curbs too.
Oh yeah, we did run over one curb, and we did hit one mirror.
One what?
A
Oh,
mirror.
it's a mirror. Oh,
A
okay.
driver's side mirror, yeah.
Okay. Well, that can happen when you're driving around a big old truck, big old bus like that.
Yeah.
So, but cool, man. I'm glad you're good. I'm glad you still enjoying the good old beautiful city of Baltimore. All my people in Baltimore, what up? Appreciate y'all. Baltimore is like a second home to me, kind of. So let's get into it a little bit, right? So we got some things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Sixers and what they did. We're going to talk about the Heat and what they did, and Boston and what they didn't do. We're going to get into all of that. So let's just jump right into it. Let's talk about the Sixers real quick. The Sixers go from a doc to a nurse. Some people might say it's a step up. Some people might say it's a step back. Nick Nurse was the coach of the Toronto Raptors up until the end of this season. Won a championship in 2019. And that same year, 2019, was the year that Toronto Raptors knocked the Sixers out in the second round with that, I don't know, what, not a double doink, but it bounced around the rim. Y'all remember the shot. Bounced around the rim. I'll have to remind you. And then it went in and knocked the Sixers out of the playoffs. They haven't been out of the second round 20. How many years? 22 years. 22 years. 2001 was the year that they went to the finals. But it's an interesting hire. I'll let you know who I wanted the Sixers to pick up in a minute. It's an interesting hire. He was the coach of the year 2020.
A year after winning the championship.
Yeah, the year after winning the championship, he won coach of the year. So accomplished, proven. Is he good for the Sixers? We shall see. Miguel, when you saw that, because it was all over the news up here. I don't know, what it might have been like down there, but what was your initial reaction?
I was like, you know what? When I looked at some of his team stats, he really is one of the things that kind of stood out to me. I believe it was this past season or the season before, and his teams led the league defensively in steals, but on offense led the league in the least amount of turnovers or something to that effect. So I was like, So he's preaching ball control. He's preaching defense, something that we have lacked in spurts. Kind of, sort of. So
absolutely.
I'm hoping that
out my lights again, Miguel.
Huh?
People turn out my lights again out here.
Oh, I thought you were doing that for effect. I'm sorry.
No. I'm sorry.
But it almost kind of scares me because I get like that Larry Brown kind of thing where, he sacrifices like great offensive players for defense, kind of sort of where there was opportunities to get like a Paul Pierce, but instead he gets somebody that has a little bit more of a defensive edge. So, and then you're losing James Harden, which may be addition by subtraction because it's hard because there's so much talent there, but basketball is such a sport that you can literally kind of turn it on and off. And it's only the ones that really are like steady competitors, like a Jimmy Butler, that can turn it on and keep it on, that wind up being successful.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have the cast and crew.
Mm-hmm.
Don't matter who the coach is, doesn't matter. You gotta have the cast and the crew. The Sixers had a cast. I'm not sure if they had a crew. What do I mean by that? The cast was guys like Embiid, Harden, Maxey. The crew was guys like PJ Tucker, Melton, DeAnthony Melton, Tobias to a point, Paul Reed maybe. When I look at a team like the Celtics, who just got knocked out of the playoffs, their cast and crew they were deep. Not too many teams go as deep as them. But why am I saying this? Because in the last 3 years, the Celtics have had 3 different coaches, and they have gotten to the conference finals all 3 years. Am I right in that? Did they get there 2 years ago? Got there this year, last year. Who went to the finals 2 years ago?
Wasn't it? Oh no, last year it was Golden State and
2 years ago was Milwaukee and Phoenix. And I'm trying to think. I think If you're watching, let me know in the comments. Was Boston in the fine in the I keep wanting to say NFC in the Eastern Conference Finals last or 2 years ago? I think they were. I think they lost to the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. If I'm not mistaken. Um, because the Sixers lost. No, no, they were not. No. I want to say the Heat beat the Celtics maybe in the first round that year, or the Nets beat them in the first round, something like that. And I think it was the Heat and the. I'm blanking so bad today. The Heat and the Bucks in the conference finals that year because last year the Sixers lost to who in the second round?
I'm checking.
Was that Miami? I'm
Yeah,
blanking all over the place. It was Miami.
they lost to Miami.
So it might have been Boston. All right. Yeah. While Miguel looks into that. Um, but I said all that to say, the Celtics had three different coaches the last 3 years and still went deep into the playoffs, right? The Sixers have had two different coaches the last 5 years or so. They've gotten to the same place. They've had different cast and crew. The Celtics have a cast and crew, and they're able to get deep into the playoffs. They have a young contingent, they have an older contingent, and it meshes very well. The Sixers don't have the mesh that the Celtics have. They have the talent, they have skill, and they get by on it. But I don't know if they mesh as well as the Celtics do, which makes it easier. And part of it is due to coaching, but it makes it a little easier for a coach to step in and continue that success. It is very hard, and as a coach as well as I, it's very hard to win, and it's very hard to win consistently. And the Celtics have done that over the past, how many every years, whereas the Sixers have not. The Heat have been deep in the playoffs, a handful of time over the last few years, and they've had the same coach, but they have a cast and crew. Like their crew steps up. They called it the big storyline right now is that they play with a lot of guys that were undrafted. They didn't even get drafted on draft night, so these were guys that were kind of almost passed over in a sense, and they out there. They're going to the NBA Finals now, take on the Denver Nuggets, who no one's talking about either, Miguel. No one's talking about the Denver Nuggets too much. I don't know if it's an East Coast bias or what. I know out here we ain't gonna talk about them too much in Philly too much because
It's Denver.
it's one is Denver. Two, you had Jokic and the whole Jokic and Embiid thing, which would have been nice to see in the NBA Finals, but maybe one day. But with all that being said, man, it's the Celtics, as much as I hate to admit it, have given you a winning blueprint over the last 5-6 years of getting deep into the playoffs and what it takes. Now I'm gonna ask you this, Miguel. One guy, Jaylen Brown, had a really bad game last night, and Jason Tatum started Celtics. First play of the game, he rolls his ankle. First play of the game, so he was not the same the rest of the night. So it goes on Jaylen Brown. He's the next man up. He's the Scottie Pippen in a sense. But he had terrible turnovers. He had a terrible game. He went into the press conference. Basically, he said, he was like, "It's my fault. I played bad. I totally expected to win this game. I went out there and played bad, and basically he carried the loss." How do you feel about a player that does that, Miguel? I mean, you got to respect it, right?
Definitely got to respect it. Because it's kind of a good thing to hear nowadays. Because most players, in Philly, we're used to the Donovan McNabb passive aggressive, Carson Wentz. This is a team game, and we all lost this game together. No, you lost it, bro. You know what I mean? Um, but in the same respect, it's like when Alec Bone had that bad game, and he mouthed the words, "I hate this place." He got booed, but he owned it. He said it was my fault. I wasn't, I shouldn't have said it. I was just really upset at the moment. Came out, and now he's having, he's starting to progress into the pro that he's been expected. So I think character. It's definitely a character play. It's another reason why I miss Jimmy Butler on the Sixers. Because even he did something that if you watch the video again, because I saw it pointed out in a post today, where I believe somebody was passing him the Larry Bird MVP trophy, and he's like, "That's not the trophy I want to hold." So you know what I mean? It's like to take ownership like that. I think it also spreads into the locker room. It spreads, and that kind of accountability will spread, and I think it just helps the locker room build up the winners versus the ones that are just there for a paycheck or just to be there to pass the time by.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at that Miami Heat team, they bring their hard hats to work. They bring their lunch pails and thermos and their hard hats to work, and they go to work, and you're going to have your 48 minutes. You're going to be in the basketball game, and you're
So,
going to.
so, so the Sixers need Embiid to be Embiid, and then he just needs four of the hard hats. Because I mean, like even with the Sixers in 2001, right?
Mm,
Take away Iverson, and we are complete garbage. But
yeah,
Iverson and that defense allowed him to kind of run around, going crazy and stuff like that when everybody else stayed stationary because you had your Aaron McKee, you
yeah.
had your Eric Snow, you know what I mean? So you had like a team that was built to play good team defense. And I believe they played half court, so they were like, aggressive on defense. I think Embiid needs to kind of somewhat roam free, minus all the damn 3-point shots. But I mean, that's the league nowadays. There's not too many big centers like there used to be back,
Mm.
in the early 2000s.
I I would tend to slightly disagree with what you originally said there, as far as Embiid to be Embiid and four hard hats around him. And this is why this is just my philosophy, my opinion. Um, because Embiid is what he is as a big, there's always been another star around a big that was successful to be a successful big. Um, so like when let's go back to Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He had Oscar Robertson, right? You had, and then Kareem he had Magic, he had James, right? Um, Shaq had Kobe, Shaq had D Wade. So like when it, Kareem, I'm not Kareem, Hakeem Olajuwon had Clyde for one of the championships. Would he have him for both?
Wait, who'd you
Had him
say?
for the one. He just had him for the one. Um, and would you consider maybe the first championship might have been four hard hats around Olajuwon, but they were. I mean, yeah, Kenny Smith, yeah, Sam Cassell coming off the bench on that team, Robert Ory, Big Shot Bob on that team, Mario Ellie on that team. I can't remember everybody that was on that squad, but I do say, and I'm on record as saying that I think that team would have beat that Bulls team in the '90s had they had squared up against each other in the championship. I really believe that.
I don't know.
I really believe it. I think they would have beat them. And I only say that because the teams that the Bulls beat in the finals never had like a center on
A
the
true.
team, a true center. But I think Embiid, to go with Embiid, you have to put somebody like a Jimmy Butler, somebody like a Damian Lillard, Devin
How
Booker,
long? How
Phoenix.
how long? How many more years is on Jimmy Butler's contract?
I don't know. I can look that up. Probably plenty because he ain't going nowhere. Miami gonna keep him in there. But you gotta put guys. I think you got to put one other star around Embiid. Um,
Other than James Harden.
other than James Harden, you gotta put um, a formidable star around him. Not somebody that's going to be looking for the foul every time they go. Somebody that's really going to be attacking. Somebody like what we saw in Boston, a Jalen Brown, a Tatum. I mean, Tatum should be on the Sixers. We passed up on him. I think that was the Markel Fultz draft. Um, Jimmy signed a 4-year contract in 2021. He signed through the 25-26 season, and he has a player option on the 25-26 season. So he has one more season um, that he has to play with Miami. And then he has the option to play another season. He has the option, player option, not the team option. So he'll be there. Well, he'll be there unless something goes horribly wrong next year. My opinion. Um, but yeah, there's guys that need, like James Harden 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, you paired him up with Embiid. Yeah, absolutely. Um,
Which is a shame because 33, it's not like the same. It's not like the same 33 as if you were in the NFL or hockey or
33 is probably like just the end of your prime in the NBA. Like you still get it done, you can still ball, but it's like now you're trending on the downside. Like that's probably where you start your decline. So you're probably still at the top, but you start your decline. Unless your name is LeBron James.
right. Only thing that's declining is his hairline.
That's it. That's it, because that man can still ball. He balling with the youngins. I was just thinking about it the other day. Like, yo, he's 30, he's over 35. And these youngins is coming in the league, 19 years old, 17, 6 or 17, 18 years old, 20 years old. And he's closer to 40 than he is to 20, and he's showing these young bulls up. Like, think about how good you have to be. I probably wasn't showing no 20-year-old too much in any sport when I was in my mid to late 30s.
Yeah.
And he can, and I'm 41 now, I'll be 42 in a couple months. He can probably still show him up at 42 if he keeps his body in the same type of shape he's keeping it in now. Like that, LeBron is just an amazing athlete. Honestly, I don't think people give him enough credit for being as amazing of an athlete as he is at his age. It's very rare to see. um, so we talked about Nick Nurse a little bit. Um, we kind of talked about the Celtics and the Heat, what they did, but just to touch on it, the Heat going to the NBA Finals to take on the Denver Nuggets, while the Celtics are going home, sitting down next to us, having a seat, eating some popcorn, watching the game. I think it starts tomorrow night. Um, excuse me. There was talk, Miguel, on TV today about should the Celtics break up break up their core? Is it time to blow it up? I'm going to ask you this, Miguel. You have a player that's early 20s, that's one of the best players in the league. You got a player that's like 25, 26, that is the Scottie Pippen of that team and one of the better players. He's second team All NBA. Jason Tatum was first team All NBA. Just based off that information alone and knowing the results that you've had, are you blowing that up?
I wouldn't blow it all the way up. I mean, for me, if you're constantly in the playoffs and you're constantly winning one or two rounds, to me, it usually means either you're one or two players away or one or two coaches away. You know what I mean? Um, just like the move that the Phillies made around this, was it around this time last year where they fired Joe Girardi? That was the key. That was the key move.
It's a little. I think it was a little later.
A little later, right?
It was in June.
But that was the key move that propelled the Phillies. I mean, you got to know the chemistry. And basketball's kind of tricky because it's the one league that's really, I hate to say it, but it's run by the players. So
Mhm.
I don't, the coaches are kind of like afterthoughts. I mean, you have to really get a lot of buy-in from the players on a coach nowadays, because I don't see any coaches lasting longer than 5. I mean, Nurse won a championship only what 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm.
He's done. Uh,
2019.
2019. Um, say what you want about Doc Rivers, but he does win sort of. And he's gone.
Let me add to your list. Monty Williams just was fired by the Phoenix Suns. He was
I
in
mentioned
the finals in 2021 against the Bucks.
right.
He was just in the finals 2 years ago, and he's getting fired.
Yeah, so it's so weird, especially with Philly sports, because I mean most of the coaches last like 5, 6, 7 years. Um, that's why I was kind of surprised that Girardi got kicked so quick. But then again, so did Gabe Kapler before him, and then you had a couple other Hujima what's its. I did like McKinnon though. I didn't think he. I think he stepped down, but I think that was more so because of the front office. But basketball is the weird sport. I don't know. I don't know if there's any coaches that have lasted. Like Popovich lasted what, like almost 20 damn years.
Yeah, yeah, over. Uh, yeah, over 20 years. I believe
Yeah,
he's been over 20 years.
and I
So
think San Antonio was like the most secret dynasty, um, or secret winning organization because when people think about winning championships, multiple championships, everybody thinks about like the Lakers and the
right.
Golden State, the Celtics, when nobody ever brings up Tim Duncan and what he did with that team.
Oh, they don't. One thing that you may not know about me, I and and there's a reason for it too. I used to be a Spurs fan. I mean, I was a Sixers fan, but you know how bad the Sixers were in the '90s.
Correct.
Iverson got there, so I was a Spurs fan because of David Robinson. Right, my mother's maiden name was Robinson. There were no Watsons in the league, so my mother's maiden name was Robinson. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna follow this dude, David Robinson. I was a Spurs fan. Um, like because that was a team I could root for in the playoffs because the Sixers wasn't never going. Um, and I was a Spurs fan up until about the time Tim Duncan got there. To be honest with you, after Tim Duncan got there, I kind of didn't like the Spurs anymore because Tim Duncan used to kill North Carolina Tar Heels in college. So I didn't want to root for him in the pros, but that quick story about me. That's all. So Atlanta Braves, San
Spurs.
Antonio Spurs.
So what about football?
Always been an Eagles fan, um, but again, the Eagles wasn't doing much in the '90s. But I was a Randall guy, Reggie White, like they were my guys, right? Um, I I I was fans of other players, but I wasn't fans of other teams. Now, there were teams that I rooted for at times for certain things,
Mhm.
and like I had a friend who had I think it was uncle or something was Art Monk was related to him, so I root for the Skins sometimes, especially in the early '90s when he was playing because they were successful. Um, I was a Deion Sanders fan, so in Atlanta, I was big Deion Sanders fan. Um, I hated the fact that he went to Dallas, but
Yeah,
um, so I was more of a fan of certain people.
gotcha.
I was a Simeon Rice fan, weird enough. As and there's no real, I mean, there's no. Let me tell you why I was a Simeon Rice fan. You know how you got the football cards, baseball cards, basketball
Yeah.
cards. I had a Simeon Rice card from Illinois. Nobody knew who he was, so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna talk about Simeon Rice, and and he ended up being pretty good in the league, so it worked out for me.
Nice.
And that's why when I wanted to be a defensive end too. I know.
Well, I mean, I was a big fan of the White Sox was my American League team, and because of Frank Thomas.
Mm.
And I swore, I'm like, man, when I hit this growth spurt, man, I'm gonna be 6'6" and 280 hitting home runs and hitting 300.
Mm. How tall are you now? Where'd you get to? Cause I'm 5'4"
Um,
on a good day.
so all of my doctors have told me that I am 5'7", and my
Okay.
wife always tells me that I'm incorrect because she says she's 6'7". I mean 5'7", and I'm like, why can't we both be right?
I don't see why not. I don't
So
see why not. You 5'7", ride with it. 5'7". Then give me a few more inches so I can be 5'7". I'll take it.
yeah.
So Miguel, we've both been coaches, right?
Mhm.
You're still a coach. I'm still a coach technically for one more game. Can you imagine your most heartbreaking loss that you had as a coach or as a player?
So my most heartbreaking loss was actually this past summer,
Mm.
uh, and it was actually probably the most heartbreaking tournament um, that we ever had because we lost. We had a 6-0 lead in 2 games with an inning to an inning and a half to go, and both games we wound up losing.
Mm.
And it was creepy because we lost them both in almost identical fashion. Uh,
Really?
so the first game it was 6-0, and I think I left my pitcher in too long. So I took the hit for that. But it was crazy because it was like a walk, a drop fly ball, and then my pitcher hit the front of the plate. You know how some of the plates they stick up, so the ball literally went straight up in the air for like 70 feet, and both runners went like 2 bases. Uh,
Wow.
and then a ground ball in the hole and off of somebody's shoulder. It was just crazy. The next day, we're playing at the University of Maryland in College Park, turf field. We're up 6-0 once again. So I bring in another pitcher because I was like, wait a minute, I've seen this before. This guy's getting tired. Let me take him out.
Mm.
So my other pitcher winds up loading the bases, and I think I might have showed you this pitch. Throws a big fat curveball right over the plate. Catcher sticks it perfect. Umpire doesn't do anything. Walks, the bases loaded. So that walked in a run.
Oh,
Everybody's going 8. My pitcher has completely lost all of his craps. So I got to take him out. So I bring in another pitcher, right? That does the exact same thing. Hits the front of the plate. The ball shoots up 8, now 10 feet in the air, and now 2 more runners score. I'm like, what in the actual flip is going on?
oh man.
Yeah. So yeah, we lost both games. The first game we lost 7-6. The next game we lost 8-6. So I experienced deja vu twice.
In the same day.
No, no, no. It was a
Oh, no,
back.
2 different days.
It was
Two different days.
the
Wow.
that it was a Thursday and a Friday.
Wow. And then you had to eat it all weekend, huh?
Ate it all week. We had I mean, because if we would have won those 2 games, the third game was irrelevant. We would have played we would have been in pool play at Hopkins University, and all of the fields are like 10 minutes from my house.
Mm. Ain't that about a blip?
Ain't it about the blip?
I had a heartbreaking loss this season. Extra innings lost the game of extra innings to one of our rivals. I can't even remember. I think my mind is like blocking it out. I can't even remember how it went down, but I do remember we took the lead and then they tied it up, and then I want to say we might have took the lead again, and then they scored two, and then that's how I won in extra innings. That one hurt. But there was one in college when I was a student assistant coach. We were playing Coppin State, and we were playing at Coppin State. And we were up. I don't know how much we were up by because we had to be. Let me see. Mercy rules are. We were not up by 10. Let's put it that way. We must have been up by 9. And then the last thing, they came all the way back and beat us. Let's call it 10-9. And that was the first game of the doubleheader. We had to come back and play another game right after that. And you could just like as a student assistant, I'm trying to get them. All right, look, we got to put that one behind us. We got another game to play. They wasn't trying to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
We were cooked for the second game. We might as well got back on the bus at that point. We were cooked. Just wasn't it, and that was so heartbreaking. Like as a coach, I couldn't show how hurt I was by that loss.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I was just like, and Coppin was one of our rivals too. To lose to Coppin in that fashion, it was a night game and all that. That one hurts. That one hurts. But I say all that to say, could you imagine what could you imagine would be the worst way to lose a game? A state championship game, Miguel. Like, how would you're coaching and what would the worst thing be? You want me to show you what the worst thing would be? There's only one good answer. Let me show you.
Sure.
Here's the worst way you can win it. You can lose a state championship.
Strike 3.
Let's take it back.
Strike 3.
Let's take it back one more time. Let's set it up a little bit. All right. Bottom of the whatever last inning of the game, whatever the last inning is in this state, probably 7, 9, whatever it might be. State championship, high school state championship. You got your number 2 ranked Pal Mac versus number 4 ranked Hornell. Hornell is up 5-4 in the bottom of the last inning with 2 outs and 2 men on base. Okay, here we go.
Strike 3.
It looks like
And he's
Hornell
out.
has won the
Hornell
game.
wins it. Oh, wait a minute. Hornell's got to pay attention.
Guys are still running.
I'm not sure what's going on here.
And 3 runs scored.
So is this the way it's going to end? Wow.
And now the score goes 7-5. Right?
No, 6-5.
So this is one of the craziest
3-run
ways
score.
that I've ever seen a baseball.
Well, you only needed 2 to win, so the third run really wouldn't count.
The third run, right. You're right. So 6-5. You lose the state championship like that. So let's put it in perspective. Third strike drop. Okay, for somebody that might be checking this out for the first time that doesn't know, in baseball, you drop a third strike, the batter can run to first base if it is unoccupied or if there are 2 outs in the inning. The batter you have to catch strike 3. So what happened is it looked like the ball went. Also, if the ball hits the dirt and let's say the batter swings and it's strike 3, the batter can also run. Okay, the ball has to be caught clean. So in this situation, you see the batter did not swing. We can look at it again in a second. The batter didn't swing, but the umpire called strike 3 on a ball that goes into the dirt. And the catcher, as Miguel explained to me earlier, because I didn't even catch any of this the first 6 times I watched this video yesterday, the catcher goes to tag the runner. And the runner and the umpire says no. Well, he says safe is what he says. As in, no, you didn't tag. And then let's see what happens again. Keep your eye on the catcher this time.
Strike
Umpire says safe.
And he's out.
And
Hornell
the
wins
catcher
it.
puts the ball in his back pocket. So as you see the second baseman right there, he knows something's up.
Oh, wait a
If
minute.
you didn't
Hornell's
catch
got to
the
pay
second baseman, he
attention.
knows something. He's running around, and there he is right there with it, running around like he lost something.
I'm
He's
not
looking for
sure
something.
what's
He's
going
looking for
on
the
here.
baseball so he can tag somebody to get the out.
So is this the way it's going to end?
So you have one guy that we know of that knew what was going on. Everybody else is celebrating like they just won the state championship, pulled off a big upset, being the number 4 ranked team over the number 2 ranked team. Miguel, could you imagine any worse way to lose a state championship game?
When I saw this and I analyzed it, and I'm trying to think of being in that moment because I remember when playing for Northeast High School, and I remember the clinching games. The first game of my sophomore year, we actually won on a game-winning hit, and then the second game it was a pseudo blowout. But our last championship we were actually up. I want to say like 11-3 against Frankfurt, and they just kept coming back. But we had no bullpen, so we had to leave our pitcher in. So we wound up winning like 11-9, and I couldn't imagine being a senior and going out losing a championship, but just the mental block. And now that I think about it too, I do remember they said that there was runners at first and second, and you said a vital thing that on a drop third strike, if first base is not occupied, then it becomes a live play. You throw to first or you tag the runner. The coach probably could have argued, well, there is a runner on first, but he's on his way to second. So there could have been a pseudo argument, but based on the rules, there's, kind of no way out of it. Maybe that's what was the confusing part. But then you kind of pointed out how the umpire looked. He said, no, but he was looking right at him. So I don't know what turned off or what turned on, and because he did kind of lunge towards the base runner to try to make the tag, and then just missed. But to lose like this, I
feel bad for that kid because he's probably sitting at home right now thinking, why not just throw the ball to first base?
And the sad thing is, it's gotten 6 million views on YouTube, and it actually made ESPN's top 10. So if you're trying not to watch or get rid of all of that, I'm sure his friends, and if he's got a rival or whatever, he's just bombarding him with these videos. But one thing I will say, kudos to the coach. The head coach said, I blame myself a little. Maybe I could have gone out and argued it was a dead ball and kept the runner on third. Maybe I could have said he's tied it now, put the runner on third and make the team beat us. But we can't blame the umpires. Everyone is running on the field, and I'm not sure they knew how to handle it either. This is the head coach from Hornell named Joe Flint. He says, I'm not sure what else happened because I haven't watched the video. Liar. Maybe I should have called for a conference and protested. I blame myself on that piece of it. Maybe I could have done a better job. So he's covering for his catcher. Obviously, he doesn't want him to kind of take the full brunt of it. But I do like the fact that he didn't blame the umpire because he made the right call. And even if it hadn't been the right call, I always tell my guys, and anytime I do my preseason email or message to the parents, I tell them I don't argue with umpires because, number one, we have to know that umpires are completely garbage. Especially, I don't want to say the further south you go, but you'll see what I mean if you ever coach in Virginia. But I always believe that you get those plays back. And here's the thing. That pitch was a bad call, but that base runner or the batter, As soon as he heard strike three, he hauled behind. This culture today would be like, "You've got to be kidding me." Throw the bat up in the air. I want my respect, and I don't put some respect on it, whatever. And they would have argued the call, but as soon as he heard strike three, he bolted. So kudos to the base runner, and this is kind of a model of what needs to be done as a player. Whatever the call is, you got to go with it, and then hustle. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel bad for the team that celebrated too soon. I'm not going to say it's the catcher's fault.
I am.
However, once he started celebrating, because he was the closest one to the umpire that was making the calls, once he started celebrating, everybody just trusted he knew what he was talking about. And everybody joined in. But no, it's not his fault. Well, maybe there shouldn't have been two guys on base, right? But what happened was he saw something, he was excited in the moment, and I think he just kind of lost his head a little bit of what was going on. And obviously that's what happened. And lesson learned. Keep your composure until it's time to not. That's all I say about that, man. I could not imagine losing a state champ. I couldn't imagine losing a regular season game like that. Lose a state championship game like that? Like this is what you worked all season for, all off season for, all your training sessions if you do that, all your your outside workouts if you do that. That's what it comes to, and man, to go out like that, man, it hurt. It's gotta hurt. And I know you gotta get by it, man. You gotta get past it and understand that it's just a game. And okay, I don't mean to cut myself off, but it was bottom of the seventh. So I just saw that on the bottom of the screen there. You got to get past that moment. You got to get past that game. It's only a game. It's done. Maybe it's time for you to graduate. Hopefully, maybe you have another shot at it. But, you got to get past it. You got to get past it. That's it. That's all I can say about it. Miguel, are you stumping me today?
Of course I am.
Because I got a good question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I got a good one for you.
Do I need my lawyer present?
Nope.
Fantastic.
Nope. You will be all right. You want to answer this question first?
Surely.
All right, hold on. Let me. Oh, nope. Don't want to do that. Almost messed up. Almost kicked you out the studio. Oh, you got yours ready? Okay, we can do it. Oh, you're gonna make it basketball too and make me struggle again, huh? Let me see. One-time All-Star, two-time NBA champion, 2011, 2012 All-NBA team. Looks like Lakers. Looks like either Cleveland or Houston, and it looks like Golden State.
Cleveland, Los Angeles, and Indiana.
Cleveland, Los Angeles, and Indiana. One-time All-Star, two-time NBA champion. 2011, 2012 All-NBA team. Two-time NBA champion. What are the teams again?
Los Angeles,
Cleveland, and
Indiana.
So he won the titles with Los Angeles, unless he was just playing for Cleveland not too long ago. What's the time span of his career?
Early 2000s to the mid 2010s. Mid 20, yeah, like 04, 03 to like 16, 15.
Oh man, you know what? I'm I'm cheating here because somebody put it in the comments. Is it Andrew Bynum? I knew I shouldn't looked at the comments, but you kind of cheated because you didn't put a Sixers jersey in there.
Right, because unofficially, I mean, yeah, he did sign a 1 year contract, but he never played.
And I'm looking at. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 out of the 7 pictures up there from his time with the Sixers. If you look at it.
Right, it was the only time he was in uniform, which was the first day he was signed. Um, so I think it was him, Iguodala, and Lou Williams. I think were on that team. So it was like, oh, we finally got our big man. And
No, Iguodala was part of the trade for him, a 3-team trade, because Iguodala was when he found out he was in the Olympics. That's when he found out.
I forgot about it.
So yeah, he found, because I think Doug Collins the coach then, or Doug Collins was on the broadcast team. And and he heard that, and Doug Collins had informed him like, yeah, he had gotten traded, and he wanted to know like, well, who would I get traded for? And he was like, Andrew Bynum, and it was like, oh, he was okay with it, like, okay, well, I can understand that. But it was a 3-team trade between Philly, Los Angeles, and Denver, because I believe Iguodala ended up going to Denver in that trade. So yeah, there you go. Andrew Bynum, the Sixer that never was. Teron Snipes said, we got Danny Granger. We got Danny Granger around that Bynum move. We did, and Danny Granger barely played for us too. Now think about it. Did Danny Granger play for us at all?
I don't know.
I don't remember. But let me go ahead and pull up the your quiz for today. Here we go. I'm hitting the wrong buttons over here. All right. Your question for today. What rookie pitcher hit a home run in his very first at bat? Mordecai Brown, Grover Alexander, Chief Bender, Hoyt Wilhelm.
Chief Bender. Sounds like an inside dirty joke. I'll go with Mordecai Brown.
He says Mordecai Brown. What do we have? Mordecai Brown is incorrect.
Chief Bender.
Chief Bender is also incorrect. No balls, 2 strikes.
That's what she said. I'll do Grover Cleveland Alexander.
Grover Cleveland Alexander is also incorrect. So that means the correct answer has to be Hoyt Wilhelm. In his very first at bat as a 28-year-old rookie pitcher, Hall of Famer Hoyt Wilhelm hit a home run. His career lasted for 21 more years and 493 plate appearances, but he never hit another home run. Could you imagine that? Your first ever at bat in the majors, you hit a home run and you never hit another one.
Well, he was a knuckleballer too. So
that ain't got nothing to do with him hitting a home run.
True.
Now you feel like, yeah, I could do this again. Nope. For 21 more years, you never did it again. You want another one?
Sure.
All right, let's see. Who was the first woman to call a nationally televised MLB playoff game? Was it Lauren Shahadi? Elena
Jessica
Rizzo?
Mendoza.
Huh?
Jessica Mendoza.
Jessica Mendoza is correct. On October 6, 2015, 34-year-old former softball slugger and two-time Olympic gold medal winner Jessica Mendoza joined John Kruk and Dan Shulman in the booth at the Yankee Stadium to provide color commentary on the Houston Astros 3-0 victory over the New York Yankees in the American League wild card game. Good job.
I thought she was pretty good too, because she would do Sunday Night Baseball with Alex Rodriguez. I thought she was pretty good.
Jessica Mendoza, do you think? John Kruk's daughter, I think, just graduated from high school. Or was it college? I think it was high school. I think she's going to. I was watching the Phillies game the other day. They were talking about her. Can't think of it, but I'm sure he'll repeat it at some point this year. Well, you got any last words before we get out of here, Miguel?
Phillies suck. What?
They play tonight?
They just lost 2-0.
10-0.
2-0.
Oh, 2-0. Okay. All right. Well,
parting words. Don't leave your meat in the back of a MTA transit bus.
Wow. Wow.
I mean,
so if you don't know what he's talking about, you probably gonna have to go back and watch the show just so you have some context of what he's saying.
and there's pictures.
So if you don't know what he's talking about, you can go back and watch the show, and he can talk about not leaving your meat in the back of a bus.
And a quick shout out to Ron Snipes, who was making comments on the show. He was he was one of my former Bible study students, and he was on the team of the first baseball team I ever head coached.
Oh, sweet, nice.
He was such a hard head then.
Speaking of former students and stuff, shout out to Amir Pickens, who we both coached at Penwood.
Amir Pickens, yes,
from Ursinus College,
yeah,
here in Pennsylvania. Shout out to him. He wrestled there. He might have played football too. He might have played football and wrestled. I'm not sure.
Did football wrestling, but he pledged
Kappa Alpha Psi.
Kappa Alpha Psi, yeah.
Yeah, so congratulations to him and the family. It's crazy. I remember I told you before I just so happened to be in Lansdale the night of his wrestling senior night. I just happened to be out there. I just happened to reach out to him. And I went to go see him wrestle his last high school wrestling match. And now he's graduating from college. It seemed like it was not that long ago, which was 4 years ago. But because of the pandemic, everything seems like it was not that long ago.
Yeah, I know.
So, it was right before the pandemic. But shout out to him and shout out to everybody. Shout out to Teron Snipes. So, yeah, there you go. With all that being said, we're going to get up out of here. We appreciate y'all joining us here for the Check Swing podcast. Make sure you come back and hit it and hang with us next week as we will be recapping the first week of the NBA Finals and whatever the heck the Phillies might be doing next week. So stay here, keep it locked with us here at New Twist Radio. Make sure you share us with your friends, your family, and your enemies. And you can check out all of our episodes of every show that comes on here at New Twist Radio at our YouTube channel, or you can check us out where you get your podcasts, like Apple, Amazon, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts, you can check us out there too. All right. We sound even better in a podcast, so check us out. We do. All right. So Miguel, for you and for me, we out of here. We'll talk to y'all next time. Peace.